Where that this is our 55th webinar, and welcome to this 55th webinar of SIAA, Society of Indian Academics in America, which was founded in 1988 and has been doing a fantastic work for inviting all these eminent speakers from all over the world for monthly webinars here. So this November, we are on a very last day of November, but we made it in November. We will be again inviting other speakers in December and January and all, but we will also have a international conference in Pune in SBUP, Sri Balaji University, Pune. Information about that is on our website, SIAA-US.com, and you are all welcome to come attend the conference. Basically, presenting a paper now is kind of too late for that to put in the program, but you are welcome to come and attend those sessions there. Our program will be announced in next 3 to 5 days, and it will go on the website also. So you will get the whole program there for 22nd and 23rd December in Sri Balaji University, Pune campus on highway of Pune-Mumbai highway there. Very good. With all of us are here because we know Ravi Kulkarni for sure. In fact, he is such a well-known figure that introduction can be very long, and the whole webinar will be just to talk about him. But he's clearly one of the most marvelous researchers that I have ever come across in my life because of his scholarly inputs, his mind, which is very detail oriented and always ready to learn new things. And after being such a great scholar in mathematics, now his attention is towards Vedanta and IKS, and that's where he is now doing most of his research and all. Well, today's webinar, he is going to talk to us about what is Indian knowledge system and what it should be, and give us the a primary course on IKS, and we are all anxious to hear him. But Ravi, the stage is yours now, so go for it.
Yeah, thank you, Kishore, for this wonderful introduction. Thank you. IKS stands for the Indian Knowledge System. It is a part of NEP, the National Education Policy, formulated by the Government of India in 2020. We have discussed IKS in some SIAA webinars, but still there is still a lot of confusion in the audience, especially in the US. Probably the newspapers like New York Times and Washington Post have reported very little about IKS, and they report with a typical US angle close to Macaulay's statements in 1835 about his very negative views about Indian knowledge. Macaulay wanted to just completely replace it with what was then taught in the English universities. Why talk about him? But I just remember a talk at the City University of New York in 1990s by a very distinguished professor. And he was talking about the universities in the world. He started his presentation with Italian University of Bologna, Padua, Naples, then of course Oxford and Cambridge, then University of St. Andrews, and etc., etc. And in that whole talk, there was no mention of Nalanda and Taxila universities. So I later pointed that to him, and he was apologetic about it. But it is clearly of importance for those of us, especially the academics, with some interest in India to bring about this consciousness in the world's educated community of this rich Indian knowledge system. Developed in India 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, and it is still continuing. And we are not saying that whatever happened in the past was the best thing that we could produce, but we have to bring it with the present and how it relates to the whole world knowledge system. So I don't have much to talk today. I'm going to talk on these three rather disparate points. First, my thoughts on what should be Indian knowledge system and how SIAA can help in promoting IKS. Then I shall speak a little bit about the basics of IKS that I feel that all the 2% top educated community should know. And then thirdly, I shall explain how mathematics, with some modern viewpoint, how can it explain some crucial statements in Vedanta. So first I begin with my thoughts on what should be IKS. This title was suggested by a paper of Dedekind in 1881 about real numbers. So it is slightly a digression, but please stay with me. In our school and college days, we learned about the development of the idea of numbers through the following stages. Natural numbers, that is 1, 2, 3, integers, that is adjoining 0 and -1, -2, etc. Then rational numbers like fractions, and then we said real numbers. But real numbers are not presented by any such symbols. So among these, what the real numbers are is a major issue, a very major issue in the philosophy of mathematics. For they cannot be simply written as indicated by my question marks. Everyone uses them, everyone thinks that he or she knows about them, but what they are is the philosophical issue. The title of a famous paper by Dedekind was "What are or what should be the real numbers?" So I'm saying similarly about IKS. So before Dedekind, the real numbers were certainly used by mathematicians, but they were never defined in some technical sense. Dedekind says in the introduction of the paper that what are the real numbers is not a right question. The right question is what should be the real numbers. They should be so defined that the mathematicians would justify their use with greater confidence. And we have the data and some thoughts about it, but to capture these thoughts in a language, that is the issue. Very similarly, what is IKS is not a right question. It is a challenge to the 2% distinguished academicians interested in India to come up with its definition, or at least a broad description. Whatever its definition, at the academic college or university level, it is an extension of the courses like, say, in the US, there are courses on Indian studies. They're taught under Indian philosophy or philosophy of Buddhism, or some very specialized courses like Panini's Ashtadhyayi and so on. Now, if someone wishes to know a single comprehensive textbook on Indian knowledge system, it has appeared now. It came about in 2022. It is by a very distinguished professor, Mahadevan, Bhatt, and Pawan. These are the three authors. It's entitled An Introduction to Indian Knowledge Systems, Concepts and Applications. It's a quite comprehensive view of IKS. It was sponsored and published by the All Indian Council of Technical Education in 2022. And you can also see Professor Mahadevan's many YouTube videos. I believe that I know a little bit more about how this IKS has come about. Dr. Vijay Bhatkar the father of India's supercomputer, an ex-vice chancellor of Nalanda University, and a very spiritual personality, the very influential person in India in the educational circles. And he started talking about Indian knowledge systems in the mid-1990s. He resides in Pune and we have become good friends. And we had invited Professor Bhatkar for an SIAA webinar. Surely some very distinguished thinkers have thought about IKS without specifically naming it as IKS. One prominent person I know from Maharashtra is Dr. Lakshman Shastri Joshi, member of the think tank established by the then Chief Minister Y.B. Chavan of Maharashtra in 1960s. In fact, Lakshman Shastri Joshi had come to Harvard in 1964. I don't know whether Rohit met him.
No, I left Harvard in 1962.
In a way, Vivekananda, Aurobindo, or going back to Madhavacharya in the 14th century, the famous author of Sarva Darshana Sangraha, they're really talking about theoretical part of IKS. A very specific reference after these Macaulay's remarks in 1835, a specific reference may be given to the book in 1930s, a Gandhian by Dharampal, a Gandhian thinker. The title of the book is The Beautiful Tree, the Indigenous Indian Education in the 18th Century. Now, Dr. Bhatkar's main contention was that a course on Indian philosophy at a university is usually a course on Vedanta and its variants. There is hardly any discussion of the other darshans, like Sankhya, Yoga, Vaisheshik, and Nyaya, or other applied developments, like Ayurveda, engineering, Arthashastra, music, etc. IKS will involve all these. As I remember, at CUNY in 1990s, in the philosophy department, there was a course on Buddhism. It was given every 2 years. It was CUNY's contribution to the theme of Indian studies. At that time, I was astonished that a distinguished professor in the philosophy of department had not heard about Shankaracharya, let alone Sankhya, Vaisheshik, etc. I knew that this was the case of sheer ignorance. The man just did not know about this Indian knowledge system. But the academics who are interested in India should carefully generate a correct narrative about the past achievements of India and bringing them all the way to the present. Now, for example, in teaching atomic theory in Chemistry 101, we will of course mention Democritus, the Greek atomist who started atomic theory. I think in the same breath, we should be also mentioning the Vaisheshikas, like Kanada Muni. The Vaisheshik Darshan should get mentioned. So under the influence of people like Dr. Bhatkar, the government of India in 2020 came up with this NEP. And one of its aims is to get the modern scientific community involved in IKS. In the Indian universities, presently there are two distinct cultures, namely people in Sanskrit departments doing research in Vedanta, Buddhism, etc. in a traditional way. The scientists knowing some Sanskrit but bringing very new viewpoints, this is the second group. The two groups were not talking to each other until 20 years ago. But now, after the advent of Google, ChatGPT, and AI, some senior people in the scientific community, having some background in Sanskrit, have started making actually remarkable contributions to IKS. So in particular, my appeal to the members of SIAA and to those who are listening to our webinars is first you should think positively about IKS and using their domain knowledge, try to make contributions to IKS by bringing in new viewpoints. For example, in the last 15 years, a large amount of literature is developing on ancient Indian mathematics. My friends at Bhaskaraachaarya Pratishthaan are arranging conferences for the last 10, 12 years on ancient Indian mathematics. Now, you may know a NASA scientist, Rick Briggs, wrote a paper in 1985, Knowledge Representation in Sanskrit and Artificial Intelligence. So if some AI scientist among us would read the paper, he could offer an SIAA webinar on what Dr. Briggs was saying. I myself have written papers on articles on philosophy of mathematics, Euclid and Panini, in which I am making references to ancient Indian mathematicians, Sankhya's Kapila Muni, Visheshika's Kanada Muni, Nyaya's Gautama Muni, Prashastapad, or Gangesh Upadhyay. Now, scholars in Western philosophy, many of them of Indian origin, are writing papers on Plato, Hume, Wittgenstein, Popper, Karl Popper, Quine, etc. But now they may also draw some comparisons with these stalwarts, in the Indian tradition, namely Buddha, Shankaracharya, Bhartrihari, etc. Such literature is developing now, only slowly in 20th and 21st centuries, but there is ample scope for such scholarship. Now, I mentioned a very different type of contribution to IKS. Only last week I learned that Professor Yogananda, a mathematician friend of mine, a rather quiet, self-effacing, 20 years junior to me, has built a website. Yogananda is also interested in Vedanta. And he has made access, he has created a website, and he's making accessible a large amount of original literature in Vedanta, including many original commentaries. Specifically, he concentrated on Prasthana-trayee. Now, the educated people among us should know Prasthana-trayee stands for the three pillars of Advaita Vedanta, namely Upanishads, Gita, and Brahma Sutras. I knew the website 5 years ago, but did not know that Yogananda had developed it. After I came to know that, I put him in touch with the Bhaandaarkar Oriental Research Institute in Pune. They are going to use his services in their half-a-century work on Mahabharata. Now, there are many thousands of manuscripts, old manuscripts, Sanskrit manuscripts, which have not been opened and studied. Now, there is this National Mission for Manuscripts. This is a major institute, and it has many network of centers, and there are major organizations having manuscript collections in Pune, Varanasi, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Mysore, Tanjore, etc. Now, I'm also requesting Yogananda to create a web series for Indian mathematicians. And the Indian Mathematics Consortium, a society that some of us started in 2015, will financially support such endeavors. Now, another development, UGC has asked the math faculty to suggest syllabus for ancient Indian mathematics at the bachelor's level curriculum. So Professor Katre and I have suggested one course in the second year and one course in the third year on this theme. It will carry 4 credits out of about 60 credits. And I have sent it to Professor Rohit Parikh and Rishikesh Vinod for comments. This is specific material on mathematics coming from ancient India, bringing it with what we know now in the 21st century and putting the whole viewpoint together. Now, Professor K.P. Mohanan, who is here now, he has joined us. He's from Trivandrum. I don't know I'm describing him correctly, but he's a specialist in health sciences. He teaches etiology, that is reasoning, to students studying for MBBS and BAMS. And I think he wishes to develop a philosophy of Ayurveda. He happened to see a YouTube video of mine on philosophy of mathematics, and he thinks that the ideas about theory building expressed in that lecture, namely introducing ontology and epistemology, so that is how we became friends. And now he is organizing a conference just next week, which I shall be attending also.
Ravi,
I suggest to all my friends at
I'm sorry,
SIAA.
I'm not a.
No?
Can I say something? I am not an expert in Ayurveda. My interest in Ayurveda is only about 2 years old. My specialization is what you might call transdisciplinary knowledge and inquiry.
Okay,
Ayurveda is just one of those branches.
We would like to hear from you at this SIAA webinar also. Maybe next 3-4 months. I suggest that all my friends at SIAA could intellectually contribute to this whole endeavor, either by their research, by their scholarship, or by things like creating websites, having computer knowledge, knowledge of AI. And equally importantly, we are now all in very higher middle class group now, at least. So we could provide some funding for research projects to younger people in Indian knowledge system. So let me now talk with some basics of IKS. Most educated people who know about India usually know about the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Gita. Now that IKS has been consciously introduced, I think that the top 2% of the educated people should know how at least these three fit together in the larger scheme of IKS. My whole talk is mainly for these 2% of the educated people who wish to develop some understanding of IKS in some depth. Now, while presenting this understanding, I deviated from the traditional arrangement and associated them with modern disciplines. My desire is to make IKS understandable to the modern scientists and humanists. So it starts with Veda. Veda is really one, but it is believed that Veda Vyasa, he divided Veda into 4 parts: Rigveda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharvaveda. Each has a Samhita part, which is in the intuitive poetic form. And there are families in India which from generation to generation recite these Samhitas. In addition, each Veda has its ritualistic part. This ritualistic part is mainly for the householders. And a part called Brahmanas, the ritualistic part is called the Brahmanas, and a more reflective part mainly for the mature hermits. And finally, the Upanishads, the spiritual texts, the beginning of Indian philosophy, and it is for everybody. Now, the 6 Vedangas. Now, for a systematic study of the Vedas, 6 disciplines were developed. So, each of them is really beginning of the corresponding science. The Shiksha is the spoken language. It was used for understanding the correct recitation of the Vedas. Then the grammar for the written language. Poetry, Chandas, which is for the study of meters. And Nirukta, which is etymology, how the language itself develops. Then Kalpa is the rituals part, and Jyotish is the astronomy. Now, among them, the 4 of the Vedangas are related to language. The Jyotish is for the modern science, and mainly astronomy. And this 5th Kalpa is the only Hindu part of it. So it is related to the rituals in Hindu life. Now, while talking about Kalpa, the parts of Euclidean geometry of triangles and circles is mentioned in Kalpa Vedanga. in connection with the construction of Vedis for performing yajnas. Then in astronomy, part of the Ptolemaic astronomy is mentioned in Jyotish Vedanga in connection with solar and lunar calendars, prediction of sunrises and sunsets, solar and lunar eclipses, and in general how the solar system works. Now this was the beginning of philosophy, so to speak. Now there are 6 Vedic philosophies, namely Sankhya, which is like physics, Vaisheshik is like chemistry, Yoga is like the physiology and psychology, Nyaya is like logic and mathematics, Vedanta is the metaphysics, and Mimamsa is the ritualistic part dealing with philosophies of karma and rebirth that we usually hear about the Hindu way of life. And now there are Upavedas, these are the applied sciences. Most prominent is Ayurveda, then engineering. It mainly dealt with house building and temple building. Then the music, weaponry, city planning, economics and politics. Yeah, there are some experts in Pune who can talk very competently about Chanakya and the science, whatever these writings on economics and politics at that time. Now in IKS, these are not only the Vedic darshanas, but also Avedic darshanas. The darshanas outside these darshanas which accept the authority of the Vedas. Now these 3 darshanas, Buddhism, Jainism and Sikhism, they do not accept the authority of the Vedas. And this is a very important point that it was emphasized by people like Lakshmana Shastri Joshi and Bhatkar, that Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism are surely a part of a single Sanatan Dharma and IKS. So some history here that Islam maintained the narrative of its universality, and Christianity maintained the narrative of its universality. Now Christians may call Islam Mohammedanism, Islamists may call Christ religion as the Christendom. But both of them maintain the narrative of universality of their respective religious traditions, but both of them created and still maintain the lingo of Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. And they consider these as very separate separate bodies of knowledge. Now, even the Constitution of India, in its English version, does not use the word dharma anywhere. It uses the word religions, and it equates dharma with religion and spreads the lingo of sarva dharma samabhava. In the process, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism got separated from their common root in Sanatan Dharma. So I put Sanatan Dharma as a part of IKS. In particular, the darshans of Buddhism, Jainism are in the intellectual property of IKS. You may know that Swami Sarvapriyananda of Ramakrishna Mission, Swami Tattvavidananda of Arsha Vidya Gurukulam, both of these are in the United States, are consciously bringing together Advaita Vedanta and Buddhism together in their lectures. Now let me briefly mention with the Yoga and Vedanta darshans. On the theoretical side, these 2 darshans are surely the high points of IKS. Yoga is mainly known as, but now popularly yoga is known as relaxation exercises. And the Buddhist meditation vipassana is known as mindful meditation. Advaita Vedanta, some people know about perennial philosophy, a la Aldous Huxley. The Wikipedia entry on perennial philosophy mentions Buddha, Muhammad, Brahmin philosophers, but does not mention Shankaracharya. Similarly, yoga should be a part of the college and university courses in psychology. And in addition to the discussion of Freud, Jung, Adler, Viktor Frankl, these well-known Western psychologists, these IKS should build proper narratives so that yoga is also mentioned in the college university courses. Now, this 12th Kashmir Shaivism is a development of Advaita Vedanta, but it came 2-3 centuries after Shankaracharya. In my opinion, it is closer to the consciousness studies in modern biology. Now, in Jnaneshwar, the Doyen saint of Maharashtra in the 12th century, belonged to this tradition. His commentary of the 6th canto of Gita was my first introduction to this tradition. Then one of our SIAA colleagues, Professor Umesh Nagarkatte, has written a very nice commentary in English on Spandakarika, one of the major texts of Kashmir Shaivism. Another such book is Vijnana Bhairav Tantra. I know some of these Sanskrit commentaries on that, but I think this is by great Abhinav Gupta. And editing, translating such works will be a very desirable contribution to the promotion of IKS. I sponsored some projects at the Bhaandaarkar Oriental Research Institute on Kashmir. In Sankhya and Vaisheshik, I think I shall omit this at the moment. I shall only mention about Sankhya that Sankhya system consists of 25 tattvas. The 24th tattva is Prakriti and 25th tattva is Purusha. And that is roughly the distinction between mind and matter or living and non-living, which occurs in Aristotelian and Cartesian philosophies as well. But there are some differences also when you compare this IKS with the Aristotle or Cartesian philosophy. Now, the first basic elements in Sankhya are the earth, water, air, fire, and vacuum. Look, they were developing theories based on the data that they had. Now, the first three, earth, water, air, are the three states, solid, liquid, and gas, of matter, what we consider matter now, and taught in Chemistry 101. Yeah. The fourth, fire, stands for the abstract concept of energy in physics. And it is remarkable that they thought about vacuum, theory building, as an element. This is needed for theory building. For any motion of the other four elements takes place in the fifth element, that element itself does not move. So something in immovable background, that is what the vacuum stands for. Now, Vaisheshik Darshan elaborates on this structure. Its very significant addition is the atomic theory, which is the forerunner of Dalton's atomic theory. The very fact that Vaisheshikas tried to go beyond earth, water, air, and tried to build a theory that matter is built out of atoms and molecules of a small but non-vanishing size. This is a remarkable achievement. The matter consists of, is made up of these atoms and molecules. Such a hypothesis is a more radical hypothesis than a more common and crisp hypothesis that matter is formed in a continuous fashion. Now, it would be foolish to see the precise numbers like 92 atoms at room temperature of modern atomic theory to find any such numbers in Vaisheshik Darshana. But they had the intellectual vigor to develop a theory based on the then available data. Vaisheshiks did talk about sulfur, iron, zinc, silver, gold, mercury, and which continue as atoms in the modern theory. Moreover, they talk about atoms, molecules with 2 atoms and molecules with 3 atoms. So I think this is a major part of the Chemistry 101 in the modern course in chemistry. Moreover, they talked about space, time, motion, gravity, viscosity, number, measurement. Yeah, these are the abstract ideas needed for developing physics. Guys, I think I shall omit this thing on Ayurveda. But I think about 2% of the educated people interested in India should know the following dictionary, that Sankhya is for physics, Vaisheshik is for chemistry, Yoga is for physiology and psychology, Nyaya is for logic and mathematics, Vedanta is for metaphysics, and Mimamsa, the ritualistic part, dealing with philosophies of karma and rebirth. Among these, this sixth part deals with the specific aspects of Hindu life. The rest five are really universal. In fact, Sankhya, Vaisheshik, Nyaya, and Mimamsa, they only talk about moksha, and they are even classically they are considered as atheist philosophies. They do not talk about God. God is not in their system. Okay, now let me end up with this, giving you this, using mathematics to explain a crucial idea in Vedanta. I shall explain how mathematics can be used to explain a crucial point in Vedanta, namely the assertion, once I am experience is supreme, that I am is not just my body nor my mind. I shall give a mathematical proof of this assertion. For proving anything in mathematics, we have to explain what is assumed. So what is assumed is the following description of Brahman in Vedanta, and that experience of Brahman is the same as experience of I am. The description of Brahman is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. In Vedanta, Brahman is an ontological word. It just stands as a word. Its meaning is to be given by human mind. And the human mind has assigned its description, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Out of this, Satyam just denotes existence, and Jnanam is the endowment with its self-cognizing ability. What remains is Anantam, it is infinite, and mathematics comes in there. In fact, one of the achievements of mathematics after it was given the set theoretic ontology in the 20th century is the explanation of infinity that it provided. Now, the main assertion of Vedanta is Brahman is not a physical object. Roughly, the argument is body and also mind are physical objects. Here we differ from the Western usage of this word. In the Western usage, mind stands for something like consciousness or something like Brahman itself. But in Vedanta, mind is considered a physical object. And all physical objects are finite. That is the assertion that is made in Vedantic texts. Whereas Brahman is Anantam, Brahman is infinite. So this is the argument that this I am experience is not just I am body, or I am does not just mean my mind. Now, step one, I am is Brahman. So I am is Ananta. Step two, the number of cells in my body is finite. Now, how do you prove that number of cells in my body is finite? For a cell has a size of a ball of radius 10 to the minus 6 meters. This is modern biology. my body fits in some box of cubic feet. So my body consists of finitely many cells. So my experience of I am does not refer to that I am just my body, QED. And the proof of I am not my mind is similar. For that, I need to equate mind with thoughts. And suppose I can think one thought per second, further assume that my body, mind lives for 100 years. Now, 100 years is certain definite number of seconds, which is a finite number. But I am is Ananta. I'm infinite. So I'm not just my mind. QED. That ends my thought. Presentation. And I would like to discuss, I think the floor is open for more discussion.
All right. Well, thank you very much for doing that. If you have any question, you can put those in the chat or just go for it. Just unmute yourself before you ask the question. Thank you.
Sir, hello. Am I
Yes, go
audible?
ahead.
Yes.
Yeah, you are.
Just a
Just
minute.
now you said that physical things are finite. I did not get that. Could you please elaborate it?
You see, even in modern physics, the number of atoms in the universe is finite. It's a large number. It's estimated to be about 10 to the 80. Even if you add elementary particles, that is some 10 to the 90. So all these physical things, and physical object is made out of atoms. Now, even in Vedanta, mind is equated with thoughts. And as I said at the end of my lecture, the thoughts are also, in one's life, they are finite in number. And by Vedanta includes them in physical objects. Yeah, that is my explanation.
Can I ask if you make a distinction between bodies of knowledge on the one hand and knowledge systems that underlie the bodies of knowledge, but are responsible for for arriving at knowledge and for critically evaluating knowledge and justifying knowledge claims. So there is a sense in which you could say that there's this fundamental distinction between the knowledge system of mathematics and the knowledge system of the sciences, but you could say there are fundamental similarities or common things within the system of science, but the body of knowledge called classical mechanics and the body of knowledge called quantum mechanics and the body of knowledge called chemistry were all different. So the knowledge system is more fundamental, more abstract than bodies of knowledge. Do you make that distinction? If you make that distinction, what would be the common characteristics of the knowledge systems of ancient India versus the knowledge system of ancient Greece?
Are you asking a question?
Yes, I was in your perspective. Do you make a distinction between bodies of knowledge and knowledge systems, or are you treating them as the same?
No, I think the scientific, the knowledge systems, that is the as used in physics, chemistry, biology is deeper than what is considered only the knowledge system in mathematics. This is the difference between sciences and mathematics. Mathematics is only a mental activity. Mathematics is abstract. And why mathematics becomes successful is because this scientific the things like mechanics or electricity, magnetism, or in biology, they are modeled on number and space. And mathematics is number and space. Whereas physics, chemistry, biology is mainly time and space. So the thought categories of mathematics, the time is not a mathematical thought category. The thought category of number projects onto the thought category of time. And the thought category of space in mathematics is much larger than the thought category of space in, say, physics. So even Newton, when he said space, he did not want to define it, but by space he meant something like three-dimensional space. And time, and both of them, time he modeled on the real numbers, and space he modeled on the triples of real numbers. So this is the translation of the physical physical things into mathematics by creating these models. So even this thing like length is a number, but length as a thing in length of a segment is a thing in physical space. To that physical space, we are attaching a number, and that number is abstract. So, but this attachment is so tight that whatever you say about this length as a number often applies to segments in the physical space. So I think that is the difference between what I consider as the difference between the scientific theories and just the mathematical theory.
So you
what you are saying about the scientific theory and that is certainly a deeper object.
Yeah, you sketch the differences in terms of the ontologies of different bodies of knowledge. Yeah. But what about the epistemological differences? The epistemology of mathematics is startlingly different from the epistemology of sciences.
By etymology, I really understand only a method of proof. Methodology of proof. So in standard mathematics, binary logic is the epistemology in the usual mathematics. But there are other types of mathematics that are developed where there are three-valued logic or what they call fuzzy logic that becomes a different theory with a different epistemology.
Yeah, there is also more fundamental differences between the nature of proof in mathematics and the nature of proof in science, beyond the logics. So what counts as evidence data, for example, is irrelevant for mathematics. In mathematics, theories are not proved, but in science, theories ought to be proved. So do you see a radical difference between the two knowledge systems, the systems of mathematics, knowledge system of mathematics and the knowledge system of the sciences, and the knowledge system of philosophy, for example.
No,
in terms of the epistemology.
Knowledge system in physics, you need some other evidence. It has to be verified in the world, so to speak. Whereas in mathematics, it stands by itself. It's a mental activity.
So is theoretical science. So science, Einstein, for example, never went to a lab, never did any experiments. He also worked purely in terms of his mind.
That is true, but his modeling of, he associated the speed of light with time. That was not done before. And the speed of light is finite. That was known before Einstein. But Einstein realized that this distinction between finite and infinite is going to be crucial. And so with that, he came up with the idea of space-time rather than space and time separately. And so in a way, he was as much a mathematician as he was a physicist.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other question, guys?
Rohit is our mathematical logic man.
I had posted a small question in the chat box. I'll just read it out. Since Shabda, that is sound, is the property of Akasha, even according to Sankhya and other philosophical systems. So you translated Akasha as vacuum. So this looks.
I cannot hear you properly.
Hello. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll try to speak louder. So the Akasha has been translated as vacuum. You translated as vacuum, but the sound is the property of Akasha, and sound cannot, travel in vacuum. And how did did ancients had the idea of vacuum? Is my question, because what means did they have to understand or create vacuum? If we translate Akasha as vacuum, we need to have this explanation as well, is my query.
You see, Sankhya associated sound with vacuum. But its scientific explanation was sound was because of the atmosphere, and sound is created through the atmosphere. If there is no atmosphere, there would not be any sound at all, but the vacuum will still be there. Right?
Yeah, but my question is even more basic. Did they have an idea of vacuum? How did they have this vacuum? This is my question. How could they have? What were the means, possibly?
No, they thought it was necessary for building a theory. So they wanted to build a theory in which motion has a meaning. So the motion of Prithvi, Jala, Vayu takes place in vacuum.
Okay, I got it.
That was
Yeah.
roughly their idea.
Okay, I got it. Yeah. So it was basically an idea which became understandable only later in the later period. I think this is what you are suggesting.
Very good. Anybody else has any question? You Well, thank you very much for everybody's attendance here. I think we got a good attendance. Thank you, Dr. Ravindra Kulkarni, for doing an outstanding job on explaining IKS to all of us. We look forward to seeing you in the conference in Pune on 22nd, 23rd, if you are in that part of the world. And thank you again for coming here. Very soon we will have a webinar announcement on our website, SIAA US. If you want to be on our mailing list, please send your email to us on SIAA.com and or send it to me, and I will pass it on to person who handles all our email lists. And we look forward to seeing you again. So thank you for coming. And good night in India.